sidelines. We're going to have a great lineup. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net is going to be with us here in just a moment from up in Springdale, followed by Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville. I always love to hear what Vince has to say. Look, Tennessee basketball, they lose, they still are stuck in that number 5 in the country spot. The people that picked these preseason polls had Tennessee 1 and South Carolina 14. Well, last week, South Carolina beat Tennessee 63-59. We're going to talk about how good is Tennessee, and they got a road win at Rupp Arena over the weekend. Like I say, nobody beats Kentucky more than Tennessee basketball. And in third segment, Jordan Davis Hill, 24/7 Sports up in Athens, Georgia, covers the Dogs for us. He will be on talking Georgia football. There is so much stuff going on. Brendan Martin, our executive producer, is in the studio down in Ocala. So we cover the SEC like kudzu and cotton. We got a lot of fun, a lot of stuff we're going to cover today. And one thing Brendan's been doing a lot of is sending me these trending stories. And this is put out, I'm going to give credit where it's due. As of February 7th, 2024, here are the top 5 trending topics in SEC sports. Alabama versus Auburn tonight. This is a matchup. And we know that one tonight. That will be big. They're camping out now for a couple of days down at Auburn to try to get into the Neville Arena. Second big trender. Florida Gators basketball feature on SEC Nation. Hey, Todd Golden, he's a good coach. I think this guy's got the right pedigree. He knows how to win. Florida knows how to win. They're other than Kentucky, they've got more national championships in basketball than any other school. Arkansas has got one, played for another one. A lot of tradition in this league, but top to bottom, you start 1 Kentucky, 2 Florida. Georgia QB, lavish purchase. Georgia, Carson Beck has made headlines by purchasing a Lamborghini. Sorry, but if I'm paying my employees and it's coming, I don't know. I buying a Lamborghini. Put that money in the stock market, son. That Lamborghini will depreciate quickly. A lot of these athletes are putting their money into the assets that depreciate the fastest: clothes and cars. And that's just I don't like that. That's a turnoff for me for NIL. I'm going to give you money so you can go buy a Lamborghini. What are you giving your own kids? That's what you got to ask. 2004 National Signing Day, 2024 National Signing Day. We're not even talking about it because it's a non-event. Video killed the radio star. December signing day killed the excitement for February signing day. And we know Ryan Williams is going to sign with Alabama today. Hell of a player. Auburn tried like hell to get him. His father played at Auburn. Quentin Reese, he's signing with Alabama too. His father played at Auburn. I wonder if any Alabama guys' kids play for Auburn. Sure, it happens. Number 5, name, image, and likeness developments. While specific details weren't available, NIL deals continue to be a trending topic in college sports, especially in the SEC, affecting how college athletes engage with sponsorships and endorsements. These topics provide insights into the current landscape of the SEC sports landscape that we cover. That is true. And there is a lot I like, and there's some things that I don't like. I'm going to tell you right now, I watched the Buddy Martin show last night. Do yourselves a favor. It's live on YouTube every night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Freddie Weeby is going to be the new head guy with Florida Gator NIL. Just a refresher. Florida has over 500,000 alumni. 500,000. That's a lot of Gators. Go Gators. So they've tried a couple of different versions and have not been able to get it going. Watch out. If Florida gets this right, it's like Coach Bryant used to say, if they ever get a coach down there and get it together, we're all going to be fighting for second. You saw what happened when Steve Spurrier came. You better watch this, what they do with NIL. I'm just being completely objective, but Florida is the biggest school in the SEC other than Texas A&M, and they hadn't been getting it right. Let's go. We'll be right back.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne in the studio here in Memphis, and Dudley Dawson, hogville.net. Beautiful background. Brendan Martin, executive producer down in Ocala, Florida.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you? And I saw the note. Dudley Dawson, congratulations. You got a new grandchild. Tell us about that.
Yay!
Got here at
God bless you, man.
Got here at 1:02 a.m. last night. Baby, mama, and daddy are all healthy. Born in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So it's a bit of a haul to go see him, but we'll get to that soon. But I'm pretty pumped. I had been encouraging him after he got married to go ahead and let's get this production facility going because at 60, let's get going. So they did last night. Excited about it. I'm gonna let him put out the name and all that. But they're all healthy now. I did have one thing I was going to tell you. You were talking about Carson Beck and his new car and put the money in investments and not clothes and stuff. I am going to tell you though that underneath this black sweatshirt here is an Adam Wainwright T-shirt that is 13 years old. That is held up well. So
no, look, I will say this about clothes and cars. That's a term, but I've got on a if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough T-shirt that I got at Hewlett and Dunn, one of my sponsors, and I'm wearing a Filson shirt jacket or whatever to keep me warm. But no, you're right. You buy quality, there's no question. And I'm just saying, Carson, I would love to be your financial advisor. I'm just take that 2.7. I'm like Mr. Drysdale on the Beverly Hillbillies. Okay, go get you a vehicle at Red River Ford Toyota over in Wynn, new or used. They'll take care of you. Jason Perry, I was talking to him yesterday. He is a Little Rock native. I just wanted to say this, Dudley. Love this guy and his brother Scott and their dad David. They started a company back in 1997 in Little Rock called McAllister, making great outdoor apparel, the best hunting gear, the most authentic stuff in the world. The state of Arkansas, I tell this to people all the time, it is the land of opportunity and entrepreneurs. McAllister, to me, I call them the Filson of the South, talking about quality. Just keep your eyes on what McAllister is doing. That's the best of the best. And they're all hogs, and they went to A-State. And one thing about this, in this state of Arkansas, in 2025, Arkansas and Arkansas State are going to start playing each other. But do you think – I think we were up in Jonesboro Wednesday and again Saturday. I see that as being good in the state for all that competition. But what are your thoughts on it? And then let's get going with what's going on currently. Today is signing day. Are the Hogs going to have any surprises in football? And we got to talk about the portal as well.
No surprises in football today. It's very calm. I know Otis Kirk is getting a lot of rest today, not like it used to be when we would be up all night worrying about different guys flipping and all that. But, it's going to be pretty calm up here today. They're actually getting ready for baseball and softball this week more than anything. Had some great golf tournament yesterday, but it's one of those things that it has really flipped around since they brought in this early signing period, and now there's virtually nobody. They signed Samara Easter last year he was the only high school signee they signed in the late period, and that was because Dal Loggins left and went to South Carolina to become the offensive coordinator, and he was obviously the his position recruits. So it's a lot different than it used to be. But as you were talking about, the quarterbacks that were getting cars, they were not taking pictures of it and putting it out there. They were getting them. They just weren't taking pictures and announcing it. So
Yes. I remember walking by the. That's Carson Beck right there. Wow.
I don't even like that car. I don't even.
Yeah,
think it looks
Brendan.
that
What do you?
cool.
I mean,
it doesn't even look that cool.
well,
I mean, for the amount of money, $270K. I mean, I'd get me a big truck maybe, but I think this look. It just looks weird. I don't know. That's
get me a house.
Yeah, I get me a whole bunch of things other than that ugly ass car.
I would invest it in the stock market and then go to Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas, and see my man Justin Wynn, Rusty Howard, Stacy, Brandon, Cecil, any of them. Okay, Nate. And I'd say, I want something practical. Or I'd get me a Toyota Tundra TSS that's got a safe with a combination built into the console of the vehicle. But Dudley,
these flying cars. We get one of these flying cars that are coming out. That's what I want.
flying cars.
Yeah, man, they're coming out. It's like all the new rage. There's gonna be flying cars everywhere. We're
Like the
about 2 years
Jetsons?
I'm going to jump on that trend just like I am the driverless ones.
Yeah.
All right, Dudley, you just mentioned something about signing day. We used to be at night worrying about people flipping and all. Bobby Petrino, to me, he's up there on the elite level as an offensive coordinator. And whoever he has, he wins with them. I mean, you know what he did at Missouri State, Louisville, wherever he's been, he's won. What has he brought in via the portal or coming in this recruiting class that gives Hog fans hope?
Well, obviously brought in Taylor Green, the quarterback from Boise State, which I think a lot of people think, obviously him and Colby Criswell are going to be the two battle for the quarterback spot, even though they have KJ Jackson, not to be confused with KJ Jefferson. KJ Jackson's a freshman coming in here. Also Malachi Singleton, who has been in the system for a year. What I would say is I don't know that it's so much the talent that they brought in here. The offensive line's getting better, but it's just his mindset, his offensive acumen that has people hoping. And I don't know if they're thinking 6-6 or they're thinking, more than that. I think expectations are pretty calm after coming off of last season's 4-8. Things can't go much worse. So I got to figure that, there'll be some excitement, but I wouldn't dare predict a record right now. And those who are doing so are jumping out there without a one more portal situation. I think they got 6 scholarships still left, and you watch them. There'll be some people who'll jump in that portal, the next portal opening, and they've got a couple of guys that have been visiting offensive linemen, a center, which is something they're really trying to add. I would say it's cautious optimism because of Bobby Petrino, and if they hadn't hired him, I'm not sure that we would have been talking about football much at all.
Well, we know what he did. I mean, God bless. We all know that. But look at Hugh Freeze. He got a job. Bruce Pearl. He got a job. Second chances. That's part of life.
If
Bobby Petrino, when he goes to the Touchdown Club in Little Rock and gets a standing ovation from those people over there, those are some of the best people in Arkansas, and also some of the wealthiest. Donors and all. But that's the Touchdown Club in Little Rock is one of the best in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club, Touchdown Club in Memphis. When they stood up and gave him a standing ovation and accepted his apology, which is, as Christians, that's what we do. And I'm not saying you just can do whatever you want and just be excused, but I think he sincerely meant it. But he's also just a hard ass. He's a driven, and that's a good thing. I mean, you've been around him. I mean, I'm not saying he's perfect, but just compartmentalize it. As a football coach, he's going to be successful. Jacoby Briswell went to North Carolina. He was a big time. Wasn't he out of Malvern, Arkansas? Marlton. Okay. Talk about him as a quarterback, and because we know what he did with Tyler Wilson, with Ryan Mallett, different quarterbacks They were machines. They were scary good.
Well, first of all, talking about Jacoby Criswell, he would probably come up here if Chad Morris hadn't been the head coach and was bringing in Chandler Morris, his son.
Yeah.
That didn't work out for anybody. I think Chandler was a good kid and thought he'd be a good quarterback. But Jacoby, I think I always wanted to be up here, and the opportunity presented itself. I don't know that a lot of people outside of Arkansas know that he's Dre Greenlaw's brother. Dre Greenlaw, Brandon Allen, two Fayetteville High former football players are playing for the San Francisco Giants. Will be in the Super Bowl this weekend. I know that probably San Francisco's hoping Brandon Allen doesn't play because that would be Brock got hurt and their backup quarterback got hurt. But congratulations to them. But I do think that with Bobby Petrino, as you mentioned, he is a hard dude in terms of getting on his team. I think that's what this team needs. I think Coach Pittman is a good coach. I think he can be stern when he needs to, but there's a reason Bobby has demanded excellence and for the most part got it. I don't want to say that he has been perfect everywhere. Let's just be honest about that. And at times he overstays his welcome or leaves before he overstays his welcome, probably is the best way to put it. I think it's a good mix, though. And I wanted to go back to that the touchdown club in Little Rock. I think that he would not be here if he hadn't come to that and did the mea culpa and all that. And as you said, they got a standing ovation. And I think that was part of the tour that so many people have had when they've made mistakes, that they come back and rehabilitate themselves. And that's what I think has happened here. There's not anybody, I don't think, who's sitting here wishing for him to fail. I mean, his success will have, success on the Arkansas football program. It might help, Sam Pittman continue to get another contract or something there. I just don't know how it's going to go in terms of how it's going to work out and all of that. But cautiously optimistic because of his track record is what I would say I am, and maybe a lot of other people.
Yeah. Well, he's one of those guys that from the time he came in from in 2002, and he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I asked Tommy Tuberville one time, I said, how do you know where all these coaches are? You bring in the same year, 2002, he replaced John Lovett. He replaced Noel Mazzoni as offensive coordinator at Auburn, and he brought in Gene Chizik from UCF to replace his defensive coordinator, John Lovett. I said, how do you know where all these coaches are? Do you have like the top 5 assistants at every position in the country, wherever they are, with their cell phones and emails? He goes, yep. I go, where'd you learn that? He said, Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson. I mean, they taught him that. So I've just followed him since 2002, but his dad was a legend NAIA coach, 29 years out in Montana. I don't know if he was related to Rip from Yellowstone or whatever, but he's got a strong pedigree. All right, Dudley, I want to switch now to basketball. And by the way, my friend Chris Aiken, one of my sponsors, Web Footed Kennels, has hunts over in Grubbs and lives in Jonesboro. And he was on the news last week in Grubbs there when the water was coming almost into Newport, I guess, over the highway. It was unbelievable.
Not the first time that's happened.
God. Yeah. I mean, people were terrified over there about the levee breaching and breaking. When the levee breaks, the great song by Howlin' Wolf that Led Zeppelin made popular. But you've seen it go over before. Have you ever seen the levee?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, my dad is buried in Crosses, which is just outside of Groves, in a cemetery there. And there have been 2 times that I haven't been able to. I've gone down to Newport and wanted to go visit, but the water's been over the road and I couldn't get to see him. So yeah, I've seen that many a time. It is both beautiful and frustrating, I would say, when that happens.
Yeah, well, in fact, Chris we met him Saturday, brought back 2 chocolate pies and one of the peanut butter pies from Blue Jays. Oh my God. I mean, it's like the search for pie in Arkansas. Go to Blue Jays and I just love those people over there, and they'll get through it. They're Arkansans.
Hey, I mentioned the phrase plate lunch the other day to somebody who had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, geez. You kids.
Well, you know what? I mean,
You
one
funny
thing about
kids.
hey, Brendan, the thing that Dudley and I know, Memphis is the largest small town in America. I mean, you can see plate lunch or a meat and three, but I'm going to tell you those folks over there at Blue Jays in Grubbs. Chris has a great hunting lodge. It's gorgeous, and they never eat there. They eat eat breakfast and dinner, lunch, everything at Blue Jays because it's less than 2 miles away. But Blue Jays, Grubbs, Arkansas, folks, try it out. Unbelievable. They got a gun shop. Unbelievable place.
Or you
Let's
can get
talk
pie and a gun.
Yeah, you can. In fact,
Hey,
the last few weeks,
you can't. It's not on the menu, but you
Not
can.
on the menu.
yeah, but they got an
I'll take a
FFL
12
there.
gauge and some blueberry pie.
Yeah, they've got a great FFL there, and those are just wonderful people. And so it's like we were going to Craig's Barbecue for 3 weeks in a row. The pie lady has been in absentia, so we don't know where she is. But a lot of legends.
When exactly do you do your job?
No, this is Sunday. This
He
is Sunday.
multitasks like you've never seen in your life. The dude works out, eats pie at the same time, and he we talks to 14 money people, and then he books a show all at once.
There you go.
It's pretty amazing.
It never seems like work, though. It is more fun. It gets more fun every time we're on here. And that's why I love being able to have you on and then bring on other guests like Vince Ferrara, who will be on with us in a few minutes. Because the two of y'all, I think what I love to do, and I watched the Buddy Martin show last night when Freddie Wiebe came on, who's going to be the new director of their NIL program. You learn so much about all these other schools.
Director of Revenue. Sorry.
Director of Revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can just tell this, Dudley, when you meet people that get it, that got it, he's got it. But I want to talk about Arkansas basketball because, again, it's a big deal. And they're struggling this year, and there's all kind of stuff. But you're a true grit journalist. You don't traffic in rumors. And I want to focus on the basketball team and where you think they're going to end up this year and how they can fix whatever is ailing them.
Well, first of all, I got in a little trouble this week, but I have no problems with doing that. When Devo Davis returned to the basketball team after so many people said he would never be back and all this and triangle that. As you said, I don't traffic in rumors. So I put out a tweet or an X, whatever you call it these days. It said, here to see people genuflecting, over this
like a
thing.
WWE star.
Yeah. You got to do the downward thing.
You got to go downward with it. Yeah.
Genuflecting had a bunch of people looking up the word genuflecting. But I'm happy for Devo. I think he's given a lot to this university. I could care less about the rumors. As you said, don't traffic in rumors. But all that being said, the basketball team has certainly not lived up to expectations. It has nothing to do with any rumors. It has to do with being a poorly constructed basketball team. And I believe that Coach Musselman, when he looks back, would say that. Either too many Chiefs, not enough Indians, too many attempted scores, not enough distributors. It's easy to criticize from here, but when you're 2-7 and the season's gone the way it is, it's valid criticism. And now, the goal right now, I guess, is to get to the NIT. Unless you win the SEC championship and tournament, you're not going to get to the NCAA tournament. You've got to do things. I think a lot of people wish they would show some pride now. Did that at Missouri, but Missouri is obviously the worst team in the league. You are what your record says you are. But they've got a great coach. They got a great coaching staff. I don't know whether I want to say this year's a lost cause or not, but it's a losing cause for sure. And it's going to take his best turnaround ever to get them into the tournament this time. I think there are tons of people who are looking forward to baseball season, and they always say that when the basketball team or football team loses. But this year, it's a top 4 team in consensus polls, and I think there are a lot of people looking toward that. And the softball team, who Arkansas is only one of 3 teams in the top 10 in the baseball and softball polls. And hey, those are my 2 teams that I focus on this spring. So.
Well, I wanted to ask you really quick about Arkansas sports, and because I was watching John Daly's podcast the other day, and he's an interesting individual. I met him a couple of times, and he was just talking about the resurgence of first of all, the campus is beautiful. He went on and on about the campus, but how much, but he's talking about how much money and people, like he's out there sort of fundraising, trying to get people to be involved. How much is he a part of that NIL conversation or not? I mean, does he enter into the whole, stratosphere out there for, as far as the
I mean,
stories?
he's part of a group who does whatever he can, to help for the university, whether it's putting people together with money or donating some himself. His son, Little John, is on the golf team now, so that he keeps a hand on it there. I know he was really, he was great friends with Toby Keith, and had a tough, obviously, the last 48 hours with all that stuff going on. But John and I we're still friends. We just don't run in the same circles anymore. But lots of great stories we could tell on each other, but we won't.
Well, you know what? The legend, when he won up in Indiana, when he won his first championship, I think he'd been playing at Chickasaw Country Club in Memphis. He'd been practicing with some guys that I know, and they just said he got this call, and he literally just hauled ass out of the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes the legend of John Daly, and he's Joe Sixpack. But you know what? I think that guy's very smart. And you know what? Just like other famous people, sometimes we think they're all over the place. They're crazy smart. But he's fun for golf, and Dudley.
He was fun for college too.
Yeah, he is. And Brendan, you talk about Arkansas. I mean, I'm over here. If you live in Memphis, you're an Arkansan, a Tennessean, and a Mississippian. You're a TAM. That's what we call it. But $14 a bushel rice is a big ass deal. It's like $85 a barrel oil. Oil needs to be around $80 conveniently for the OPEC nations to balance their budgets. Just check what the price of oil typically is. And if it goes down low, the refineries stop refining as much, and that drives it back up. They're going to screw you one way or the other. But I'm just saying this. There's a lot of money in Arkansas. The largest off-Wall Street investment bank in America is in Little Rock. Stevens. Warren Stevens. Dudley, you know this. But also along that line of what Dudley said, that cabal of super wealthy people will get tired of carrying the load. They want to see a populist movement. And I think, we saw with Freddie Weeby coming on at Florida. Talk about the populist movement at Arkansas. What do they call their collective? Because I got a lot of hog friends, and they're all going, well, how do I get involved? I don't have that kind of money. I'm like, you don't have to give $1 million a year. No,
it is called the Razor's Edge, and they will take any form of donation, much like the Shriners or St. Jude Hospital. The commercials you say, give $19, you can sponsor an athlete, and you can see him get a double or score a touchdown, those sort of things. The Razor's Edge, they've got good people working there. It's tough when they announced a push. It was coming off a 4-8 football season. Not maybe the best time to make the push, but they had a situation where they felt like they were behind in NIL, and I from the just looking in from I think they're right. Obviously, other teams, Ole Miss, others, were putting more money into their NIL programming. Being able to get more top quality athletes, and obviously it's better when you coming off a 10-win season and all that. As I said, I do think they've got good people, but I think I don't think they were as ready as some other schools in the SEC when the NIL hit. I think that had to do some with legislation here in the state as they were working on it, and figuring out what's legal and what's not legal and what you can do, and it may look legal and it's not legal, all those sort of things. So I think they were behind in it, and I think they're trying to catch up. But again, it's tough when your main sport, the one that drives the revenue, and let's just be honest about that, goes 4-8, and you try to fundraise off of that. It doesn't work as well. Well,
Brendan, if you could, I'd love it if you could put a photograph up there of the campus in Fayetteville in the fall or the spring, just an aerial shot, it's gorgeous. Mulberry, strawberry rivers. I mean, you get over there in that part of the state, the Ozarks are gorgeous. Now it's not. Brendan lived out in Boulder for a while.
Denver.
That's high country. I mean, you're up in the Rockies. It's a lot bigger. When you lived in Littleton, Colorado.
Denver, Littleton, Boulder. I've lived everywhere.
So, I mean, compare. You've been to Fayetteville, haven't you, Brendan?
Oh yeah, I had a girlfriend there once.
Yeah, and it really is, and Knoxville.
What's the canyons out there where you can go into the hiking in the canyons and all that? That's pretty awesome.
You get it, yeah. I mean, I talked to Tim Horton about this a lot. When he was at Arkansas playing there, coaching, recruiting coordinator, you get a kid up there that has any interest in the outdoors. If he doesn't, he will.
Right.
To me, that's a big ass deal. And it
why,
really is.
That's why we're getting offensive linemen a lot. Because of that, really.
Yeah. Well, we're going to Knoxville tomorrow after the show, and going to meet up there with cousin Mark, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, and then to Charlotte Friday for a few days, and then to Atlanta. So we're going to be doing the show all over. But you get there's something about mountains. It psychologically makes you cool. I look out at Crowley's Ridge, it cools me off. And as I look across flooded rice fields and mosquitoes in the summer, but the mountains in places like Knoxville and Fayetteville are spectacular, Dudley. I mean, that's the thing about it. And people don't have a clue, most of them, what Fayetteville's like. And that stadium is pushing 80,000. Now, what about the naming rights? Reynolds Razorback Stadium. Let's bring Vince Ferrara in as soon as we can. But Reynolds Razorback Stadium, are the rights up for someone else can get them?
Yes, they are, and they have not announced anything going on there. Maybe that'll come pretty soon. But again, I think it's easier to get naming rights when you're running a very successful program, and I'm sure that they're going to get that taken care of.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing what it is. But yeah, it is time for hey, there's my place,
Old Main, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I actually had classes in there. Back when they put classes in there.
I love it. Yeah, I
mean, the ones I went to, that is.
Yeah. Well, doesn't every student at Arkansas before they graduate puts their hand print in the concrete, or is it a footprint?
It's your name is on the
your
concrete.
name. I'm sorry. Okay.
My name is on the concrete there. Some people can put their hands in it, but that's a whole another story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
Yeah.
Let's just say if you graduate, you get your name on the list on the wall.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me say something about one of our sponsors, Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Get out there. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. The second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. Duckheads, Pendleton, Schaefer. They're the outdoor wardrobe consultants to the cast on Yellowstone. STS luggage, great looking gear. The jackets made out of the suede, great looking women's clothes, Dolce Vita, you name it, they've got it. Hewlett and Dunn, and also Chad House, ECS House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, sponsors this Razorback report with Dudley Dawson of Hogville.net, located in a 99,000 square foot warehouse in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. That's just north of Wynn, between Wynn and Jonesboro. They make the Better Roller, the Pulverizer, the Better Chopper. They make the aerators for catfish farms. They make the best equipment in agriculture. You'll see their equipment all over the South, all over the country, and around the world. House Industries, proud to have them as a sponsor, blessed to have them. Love Chad House and all the great people there. 77-year-old business, ECS House Industries. Check them out on our website and support all of our sponsors as you see them on that website. And Dudley, when you're looking now at what's going on in the SEC, we hadn't talked a lot about baseball, and when Vince comes on, we're going to, but Razorback Balm Stadium, is it 12, 15,000? They sell out every game. I mean, they do better in attendance, and I know they don't play as many games, but that's better than a lot of major league teams.
Yeah, capacity of the stadium, they fill up all the time, and they've got the berm in the outfield, so they're able to to really pack it in there that are not necessarily designed seats. They've had as much as 14, 15,000. I think it seats 12,000. Coach Van Horn was asked Monday at a Swatters Club, which is kind of their baseball booster club, if he thought they could add more seats and it would they'd still sell the season tickets out. He thought so. He said he wasn't going to ask for them, but they could put them where that berm's at right now and just keep going. It is the most of the so-called big three sports. That's not my term. That's somebody else, because track runs the roost here, in terms of national championships and all that. But baseball has been consistently successful more than any other sport outside of the track. They're consensus top four in the 4 or 5 polls that are out right now. They'll open next Thursday. 4 games with the James Madison Dukes before they head to Texas, to Arlington, Texas, for games against Michigan, Oregon State, and Oklahoma State. Looking forward to going down there again. But it's just, it's a great program. Coach Van Horn's done a great job. Number 1 freshman recruiting class in here, and top 5 portal class. And this is a team that lost 7 of its 9 starters there last year when you include the DH, but just kind of replenished and expects to have a great year.
Well, college baseball, look around from Florida to Arkansas and everywhere in between. It is I think it's the most competitive league, top to bottom. And I damn sure hope your St. Louis Cardinals are better this year. Outside of New York Yankees, name me a Major League Baseball team with more tradition than the St. Louis Cardinals.
4 more world championships. The Yankees 26, Cardinals 11. And
exactly.
Yes, it would be hard to be worse this year. We certainly have revamped the pitching staff. Most of them are as old as me, Lance Lynn and those guys coming over. But surely they'll be better. And I'll have good days when they win, bad days when they lose.
There are no bad days. As long as you're healthy and above ground, it's a great day. And and Vince is having a little bit of trouble getting on. We got demons out there. Here he comes, Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, talking with Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, talking some college football, baseball, basketball, today's national signing date. And is anything going to be a surprise for Tennessee today in terms of someone out there, a high school player or in the portal that we don't know about, because the class, for the most part, is already completed?
Yeah, Vince, your mic is still muted, buddy. Yeah. So I'll try to work with him on the side there. He's got a new camera today.
Okay.
While they're getting going
there we go.
There it is. There you go.
The setting was gone. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So no, nothing from Tennessee standpoint today. They had a local player, a local star player at West High School announced yesterday that he was going to Tennessee. He had some FCS offers, and he's going to Tennessee as a walk-on. But nothing in terms of ranked scholarship players that people are looking out for in the rankings or anything. Tennessee has a few fewer numbers with their latest punishment. So they're pretty much set. And I imagine Tennessee and a lot of other schools that aren't in on the higher end players. And I think Tom Luganville put out like 8 to 10 of the top 300 were still hadn't signed, even if they were committed. So there are a few decisions that are out there, but not really for Tennessee. And Tennessee will do what a lot of other teams will do and probably hold out some spots for spring for the portal, even though there'll probably be some exits then in that next window for the portal. But nothing really today. I've never seen – this used to be the day, as you guys know.
Yeah.
It didn't come up one time on our show this morning. That's biggest, how little we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the biggest non-event since Y2K.
But now, are you guys? Because I know in Florida today, Billy Napier's got an 11:30 press conference, so he's going to come out and probably update his roster. They're predicted to put up 14 potential 14 transfers as potential starters are on the roster. So I have nothing at Tennessee, nothing at Arkansas as far as
nothing scheduled. Just they, in fact, Coach Petrino and Coach Pittman and them are out recruiting now for the next class. So I get that. That's what you have to do these days.
Let me throw this one to you, all of y'all. Do y'all remember so many coaches leaving this late? I mean, you can't look at a website for a school without seeing an assistant taking another job, and you pick the school. There's a lot of instability, and they're going to the NFL. Is what most of them are. Is the portal and the NIL making being an assistant coach, and you're recruiting? You're having to recruit your own players. We need to fix that. We do not need to have a brain drain. This is the biggest exodus of a population since the potato famine in Ireland in the 1840s. I mean, there's everywhere you look, it's a problem. I'll start with Dudley, Vince, whoever wants to take it on.
Well, I mean, Coach Saban, I think has mentioned that the portal and NIL has made college football different for head coaches, and I'm sure that trickles down to assistant coaches. Some of these assistant coaches are getting better deals and going there. And I also think there's always a chance that you could get fired the next year. And if you can go ahead as an assistant coach and sign a 3-year contract, which is what Dan Enos did, coming here to Arkansas last year, as long as you can, you got to work it just like any other profession. The more security you can get for you and your family, you go ahead and do that. I just think we see it more. Staffs used to stay together forever back then, but it was a different world, a different dynamic from what you have to do. And also, there used to be a break for these guys in recruiting. There is no such thing now.
Yeah. Vince?
Yeah, there's there's really we haven't really seen it at Tennessee. There's been no changes to the coaching staff. So Tennessee's actually, unlike previous eras of struggling Tennessee football, there's been stability. Tennessee under Josh Heupel has had exactly 2 openings on their staffs and nothing here this offseason. So it's been different from that standpoint. But sure, there's head coaches at college programs going to be coordinators. Alabama's had a couple of standing head coaches, and then the Green Bay Packers hired a existing head coach in Hatley from Boston College. So I think that is the trend, is to go away from it because of how difficult it is to deal with all of it. We also don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's a changing landscape on a daily basis. Of course, I'm sure you guys will ask me about it, everything with the NCAA and UT. We don't know what the ramifications are. It may not be. It's not going to be what it has been. Will it be even more difficult? Will it be better to manage? What's that going to look like just next year, much less in the future? Some are not taking a chance. Others are saying themselves that are sticking around, hey, I'm going to be able to figure it out. And the best recruiters are the ones that adjust to whatever it is. And that's kind of been Josh Heupel's approach. Whatever we got to deal with, we're going to try to be the best at it. And, from Tennessee standpoint, so far, so good in doing that. But it is, there are more people leaving the sport. And I totally understand it, because it's less about the actual game of football and teaching, which is what these coaches say they get in it for. And it's more about re-recruiting your own roster. And that's no fun when you got to recruit high school kids and every other kid in college football with the portal also.
Yeah, I kind of like the way Tennessee has gone at this. At first, it was, okay, we did this. We'll take your punishment and all that. Here's what we should agree on. The second time, it's like, oh, you want to throw down? Let's throw down.
Yeah.
Throw down. I like that. That's kind of been my mindset. When I've dealt with things like that, I'll let you. You caught me on. You got that first one, but the second one, let's go. And I like it.
Hey, is it? It would be a great promotion. Donnie Plowman, the chancellor at Tennessee, and Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, in a wrestling match. I mean, it's ridiculous, the selective enforcement. They don't seem to find their way ever to Columbus, Ohio. And we know they're as pure as the driven snow.
Well, part of it is Tennessee had a high-profile collective that initially they were out there and they were out. So, people spoke to the Athletic, and so people were more aware of them, and so you have a highly successful collective. You have a big boy school at a power conference that is having success with NIL. If you're going to do something and try to justify your existence, if you're the NCAA and you're throwing a Hail Mary, you got to do it against someone that might potentially move the needle and make statements and maybe discourage others from doing it by you trying to win against Tennessee. If they try to do it against New Mexico State or somebody else, it's not going to resonate to the rest of college football. Now, I don't think they're going to be successful at it. Don't get me wrong. But just from their standpoint, when they already don't have any power and they have multiple million and in some cases $1 billion lawsuits that the NCAA is dealing with. So if you strip their power and you strip their money, what else do you have? So they're trying to justify their existence by making this play, but I don't think it's going to be successful. So that's why I think they targeted Tennessee. And what Tennessee says is, hey, it was just a couple of months ago that you praised us and said that we set the bar for cooperation with the NCAA. And now you're targeting us to try to send a message for your vague guidelines when they really weren't guidelines and you're trying to retroactively punish because of that? No, we're not standing for that. And Tennessee has been very, very strong in not only their statements, but in the lawsuit with the Tennessee Attorney General as well as the Virginia Attorney General. Yesterday was another big point in the progress of that lawsuit, in that Tennessee was seeking, and Virginia were seeking, a restraining order, which would have prevented the NCAA from punishing Tennessee and Virginia in any form or fashion for NIL rules until the hearing takes place and in federal court. And they denied that temporary restraining order. The headline said that, guys, but that was misleading, and that was burying the lead. The judge also went on to say that, yes, they denied the restraining order, but he said, quote, that this is the judge that ruled on it, said, considering the evidence currently before the court, plaintiffs are likely to succeed on the merits of their claim under the Sherman Act. There is sufficient evidence that the NCAA's NIL recruiting ban likely harms competition. So basically they're saying, Tennessee, Virginia, you're going to win this case, and you don't really need a restraining order because they don't have a leg to stand on more than likely during this period anyway. The preliminary hearing is next week, so they'll get the ball rolling on it. But I think overall that was a positive for Tennessee and Virginia in winning that case based on what the judges who may end up being the one ruling on the case also, which is also a positive.
Yeah, I want to see games. If I want to see something adjudicated, I'll turn on Perry Mason. You can find one on, all the time.
Right. Well, it's interesting. We have the barrister in residence of Sidelines, Jack Turner of the Crone Law Firm in Memphis, and Jack was on the show Saturday talking about it. Dudley and Vince and Brendan. It was really neat, and that's what he said, is that the NCAA has no subpoena power, so everything's basically circumstantial evidence. I'm not an attorney. My grandfather was and was taught law, but I just know this much from what Jack said. The NCAA's biggest fear is they have to worry about antitrust laws. And the Sherman antitrust laws were William Tecumseh Sherman's brother from Ohio was a congressman, put those into law. They're not constitutional amendments, so they could be changed, overturned by a vote of Congress, but that's what they have to worry about is antitrust laws. And again, we're all about capitalism, but I just want to get it back to where we're talking about the games and the coaches, our coaches. And, I'll throw this out there. I'd love to take, if coaches could be honest. I mean, like David Arnoff, great point, like against SMU. I know people out in Dallas that I talk to a lot. SMU back in the fall had a ring the bell fundraising 7-day, sprint. You know how much money they raised in 7 days? $150 million. Hind Park has a lot of money. And SMU is sticking it in the face of the NCAA kind of from what happened to them 40 plus years ago. But how good are they going to be in football? I don't know. But as they say, we've got a big boy football program now, and they're branding what they call the 214 Dallas's team. And it's just interesting where we're going.
Yeah. And Dudley and Rob, look, this topic, this whole stuff, it sucks. It sucks to talk about. I get it. And it's for listeners, they'd rather, like us, talk about the games and that kind of stuff, which is more enjoyable. But unfortunately, at least for us, we're in the middle of it because this could be a landscape changing lawsuit, and we'll see what comes of it. It could really change or take down the NCAA. So it does have ramifications. I know, kind of get in the weeds sometimes with the little details, but we had Dan Lust, who is fantastic. He's a legal analyst, sports lawyer. He actually represents collectives. So he knows collectives. He knows the NIL space, and he covers legal and financial issues in college, in all sports. Amazing resource. And we had him on the show on Friday breaking this down. And he said, look, I've been waiting for years for somebody to go after the NCAA and sue them and see how it plays out. This could change the game altogether. And then you have like Dartmouth with their men's basketball team becoming employees. So there's another branch out to that. It's a mess, but it's what we're living in right now. It's not going to be what it has been. That's for sure.
Yeah. Be interesting to see what ends up happening. The NCAA, I think, is on life support now, Dudley. I don't know how much longer they can go on.
It is Hamilton Berger.
Yeah. Hamilton Berger. He never beat Perry. One time Perry won, but it was overturned on a technicality, wasn't it, Dudley?
Mm-hmm.
That was a great show. Della Street, Paul Drake. I mean, the people back then they dressed really well too. It's not like when you fly on a plane now and, I am the walrus.
Greyhounds now.
I mean, now you get on a plane and the walrus sits between you and the other person and bleeds over into your seat.
Brings their own food. God,
can I have some food? Now, when you fly nowadays, it's so weak. You have to say, "Could I have some food with my plastic?" I mean,
and some boats.
Yes, and you don't get anything. But Dudley and Vince and Brendan, all of y'all, it's SEC basketball right now. Tennessee, Vince, we're going to be in Knoxville tomorrow. We're going to go up there on the way to Charlotte and spend the night with cousin Mark up there. This team, they lose, but they stay at number 5. The people that do the picking of the preseason had them number 1. They had South Carolina number 14. South Carolina wins last week by 4 over Tennessee. They're waiting. You talked about Connect last week. He can't do everything. He got a lot of help at Rupp Arena over the weekend. What does that say about – I think it shows if Tennessee puts it together, they are the best team in the SEC.
Oh, I think so. And you're right. That was really the storyline. Against South Carolina, they only scored 59 total points, 31 of them from Connect. That means all the other players, and there was, I think, like 8 or 9 of them, combined for 28 points. That's it. It's not enough. And it was completely different against Kentucky at Rupp Arena. They got out to a great lead, an early lead. Shots were falling. They were aggressive. They were willing to run with Kentucky. They took Kentucky's best shots anytime they closed to within a couple of points. They always had an answer. And they scored 103 points, which Kentucky had not given up that many points in SEC play in like 30 years. And Rick Barnes now has as many wins in Rupp Arena since he's been at Tennessee. He's now 4-5. Than the university did from 1976 to 2015. And the first two of those years they won, and then they had a drought. They only won two the rest of the time. So that's how difficult historically it's been for Tennessee to win there. But no one wins more than Tennessee and Rick Barnes against Kentucky. So they totaled 87 points from anyone not named Connect. That's how different it was. Career highs 26 for James and Ziegler. 13 assists for Ziegler, double-double from Adu, Vescovy in double figures. They don't need all of that every game to beat lesser teams than Kentucky, but it did show that those other guys are capable. We'll see if it carries over, or if we start getting an up and down from this team. But that was really impressive in what they were able to do against Kentucky. The key is everyone not named Connect, because guess what? Calipari in Kentucky, they forced Connect to defend. They worked him and got him in some switches and forced him to run on defense and try to wear him down a little bit and hope he missed shots. And he did. And they'll take their chances with everybody else trying to carry the load in scoring. They were making shots in that game that they hadn't in the past. I promise you, other teams, whether they're successful or not, is a different story, but I promise you other teams are going to take that same approach, and it's going to come down to whether those other guys can be consistent enough or they have enough of them in one game to go with Connect scoring.
Yeah, I thought there were five SEC teams that could get to the Final Four to start the year. I still think there's five. However, that fifth one is now South Carolina instead of Arkansas because it obviously has imploded. But I watch a lot of basketball. I watch those teams, and they legitimately, I think those five. And I continue to jump on the South Carolina bandwagon. It's not necessary. They've got plenty of talent, but they just play so well together. They're so well coached that you have to include them in that mix, I think.
Well, you look at a team's losses. I mean, and you look at Auburn. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, says they don't have any NBA players on this team. They might, but right now they don't. I mean, Aiden Holloway out of California is a 5-star and got a lot of 4-stars. But their losses, 88-82 early up in Sioux Falls against Baylor November 7th. 5-point loss on the road at Appalachian State in a true road environment early. And then 4 points on the road. They lost in Tuscaloosa, 6 points at the Hump in Starkville. And they play Alabama tonight. People have been camping out for a day and a half. Ridiculous. I mean, for a basketball game at Auburn. There are tents out there. I mean, Coach Krzyzewski, love him. He's gone. He's out of coaching. That's what we've done with SEC basketball. But, in the last 21 games, Vince, that Tennessee and Kentucky have played, Tennessee is 11-10 against the Wildcats. Nobody, I sound like some guy, nobody beats our prices. But Tennessee has beaten Kentucky over 80 times in basketball, I believe. I bet you if you added up the rest of the SEC, they don't have 80 wins against Kentucky, certainly not combined at Rupp Arena. The Big Orange own Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that around 500 is the closest thing to owning, but like you said, compared to everybody else,
Kentucky.
Yeah, it's Kentucky historically.
Kentucky. Yeah,
and you know what? And here's another one that's crazy. Rick Barnes is 7-1 against top 10 ranked Kentucky teams. So not only does he beat Kentucky, he beats them when they're good.
That's the most important storyline right there.
But that's Barnes, Rob. He beats good competition, whether it's top 10 teams at home or top 25 wins. That's another reason why the postseason is a little bit of a head scratcher. And by the way, Tennessee, while Barnes has been there, Tennessee has the most wins in the league in the postseason. So fans are frustrated by that, but it's not like the rest of the league is outperforming Tennessee in the postseason either. And so,
well, again, eventually they're going to put it together, Dudley.
Right.
And you look at it with any great team. How long has it taken? I mean, Michigan football from 1948 to 1997, all those great Bo Schembechler teams and Fritz Chrysler, whatever. They won one national championship in that 49-year span. That was a co-national championship with the Nebraska team in 97. Then they won it all January 8th against Washington this year. I mean, but look, we're about out of time for our next guest, and I want to tell you, both of y'all, love having both of y'all on here together. And just Dudley, your hogville.net. Let them know how they can follow you. And Vince, do the same. And let's do this again next week. And as always, I want to tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time to join us for our listeners and our viewers everywhere. And it means a lot. And also follow them, people. You want to know what's going on? As Brendan says, drill down local. And Dudley, tag out.
Yeah,
before you guys go,
I
I wanted to show you. I just got a little image for you. That's a people that camping out.
There you go. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Hog wild. If it bleeds, it leads. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hogville.net is our website covering every sport under the sun that they have up here. And fearlessfriday.com. I continue to do some high school stuff because that's one of my passions. And also, the Twitter or X handle is Dead Sports, DED Sports, and you can find stuff about professional sports teams that I like there, and also about my new grandson.
What?
There we go. I love it. Vince?
Yeah, you can follow me on the artist formerly known as Twitter, now X, which is still hard to get used to.
It is.
It is at Vince Sports. That's my same handle on all the socials: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of fun stuff. So give me a follow on any of those platforms. I have some broadcasting samples. I'm going to update it because I do a lot of different things. So if you want to check that out, it's vincesports.net. And then our website has podcasts of our morning show. That's at 991thesportsanimal.com. Videos of all of different things going on with Tennessee and press releases, all that kind of fun stuff. And obviously it ramps up even more during football season. So check that out when you get a chance.
Hey, thank y'all so much. We'll do it again next Wednesday on Sidelines. And love having those two on here together. Absolutely. Vince Ferrara, Dudley Dawson together. Brendan, David Arnoff's a smart guy.
He's a doctor.
I like that. I need to run a March Madness vasectomy special. Allows the guys uninterrupted 4-day viewing.
I know. He went back to back there, so I kind of put that down. So yeah.
No, I got it. But you know what? We're going to bring in Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covers Georgia. Before that, I want to say something about another one of our sponsors, about the Vitamin Shop. Look, folks, you got one body, one trip to the plate. The Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road, Olive Branch, Mississippi, open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m., 8 p.m., Sundays, 10:30 a.m., 7 p.m. They've got buy one, get one specials through February 22nd, all kinds of specials when you go in there. The key is this. I shop at the Vitamin Shop. I buy goo, I buy shot blocks. You're in the 70, 80-mile bike ride, you're swimming, you're running. Your stuff gives you a little bit of extra edge. The goo and the shot blocks, the probiotics, the supplements, the recovery supplements and drinks, they're legit. They have specialists there that actually know what they're doing. No 1,000-yard stares. I don't know. I just work here. Legitimate people. Also opening up a second location coming up February 12th. That's Monday in Oxford, Mississippi, home of the University of Mississippi, the Ole Miss Rebels. And we're going to be doing a live remote there March 2nd at the new location in Oxford, Mississippi. And they're trying to get, hopefully it's going to happen, Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart out there from Canyon City, Utah. I think he's maybe 20. It seems like he's been at Ole Miss for a long time. But Jordan, did you go shopping for that new vehicle that Carson Beck got? I would have hoped he would have come over to Wynn, Arkansas and bought him a new F-150 or a Toyota Tundra TSS. But he should have that 270 in the stock market. If he earns 7% over the next 20 or 30 years, will be worth a lot more than that Lamborghini. But he's probably thinking, I'm going to the NFL. I mean, that looks like a Lamborghini SUV, whatever it is, Jordan. But
crossover.
Hey,
we're calling it a crossover. Lambo
it's a hybrid.
Crossover. Hybrid.
Yeah, it's a hybrid. But Jordan, he's back. The nucleus of the Georgia football team is back. So we're not going to be long before somebody kicks off spring practice. The support group that we've put together here, we're hanging in there till we get some more football.
I know we had the Senior Bowl last weekend. We'll have the Super Bowl this weekend. I guess I keep getting it confused. I think it's the XFL. I'm confused since they merged what they're calling it now. But I think we can ride, a couple of weeks of that to someone starting the spring. I know Georgia, they haven't announced it, but I think it's like the second week of spring. It's like March 12th when they'll
Okay.
be getting it started. So I think we can make it, Rob. It's no guarantee, and we'll have to all lean on each other to do it. But I think we can make it to spring practice to get us through this year.
Yeah, and you know what? We've been talking with Dudley Dawson and Vince Ferrara in the first hour. Today's National Signing Day, and it's kind of a non-event. Nobody's talking about it. And Georgia doesn't go too heavy into the portal, but are there any surprises that Georgia's going to bring in today that we don't know about, that you do?
No, the one that we were watching, and it was funny. It actually happened while I was backstage here. Terry Bussey, a five-star athlete, he had been committed to Texas A&M, was still committed, but was looking around Georgia. Really looked like it was either going to be A&M or LSU. And probably right before we came on here, he announced he was signing with A&M, which was who he had been committed to. So that was really it. I mean, I think Georgia may wind up adding a walk-on receiver from Clinch County, Jeremy Bell Jr., a guy that was committed to Indiana at one point. I think they may add him today. But other than that, it is all quiet on the Western Front when it comes to Athens, Georgia. And again, I know I've seen a lot of fans over on Dogs 24/7 saying, man, I miss the old signing day. This is so boring. Well, thank Kirby Smart for that. They signed 28 guys in December, and, I'm not sure if the math's out there for someone to pass them, but even if there's some kind of twist where Georgia comes out of today and does not have the number one overall class, it is still a very good class, and Georgia's happy with it. And if that were to happen, I don't think Kirby Smart would lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, the talent in state, they put out about 250 Division I players a year in Georgia from the high schools. That is fourth most in the country. Number one is Texas, over 400. Two is California, about 380. Florida's third, about 370. Fifth is Ohio, about 160. And sixth is Alabama at almost 140 Division I players coming out. But we live in a different world now, Jordan. People camping out at the Neville Arena for the basketball game. The IBOB, as Kevin Skarbinski calls it, the Iron Bowl of basketball. That's Bud Walton. But at the arena there, it's a different world. In Georgia basketball, they're losing these close games, but they're in the fight. I mean, Mike White came from Florida, but is there a lot of excitement around Georgia basketball? Because we know just Metro Atlanta, spread out over 22 counties, 6.5 million people. There are a few decent basketball players there, and if they just get their share, Georgia automatically is a top 15 team.
Yeah, I think tonight is really going to test it because they started off really well, had some missed opportunities at home against Tennessee, at home against Alabama, on the road against Florida. And they play Mississippi State tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time tip. So I'm going to be drinking some coffee, try to stay up and watch this one over in Starkville. But they've lost 3 games in a row. A couple of them they were very close to pulling off. And I think you're kind of seeing it, the season sort of on the brink, just because of how competitive the SEC is. Go look at what this season has looked like. I mean, really, everybody's sort of in the mix besides like Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Arkansas. So Georgia, can't afford to keep this losing streak going. And this Mississippi State team, especially at home, is really dangerous. I mean, Auburn learned that a couple of weeks ago. So I think this is a good test for where this team is. I think fans desperately want this team to just be competitive to the point where the NCAA tournament is a legitimate option and to make it, every other year. They haven't been, I think, in 9 years. It's been quite a while. I mean, that's 2 head coaches ago at this point. So they got off to a good start. They fell to below 500 in SEC play on Saturday. And I feel like this is a big one going to Mississippi State. Another team that both these teams, Mississippi State and Georgia, have lost 3 out of their last 4. And as I was just talking about with how competitive the SEC is, something's got to give between these 2 teams. I think whoever loses this game might be really hurting with what's left in the season.
Well, You look at the SEC, and we were asking this question in the last few weeks. What's the best basketball league in the country, top to bottom? Big 12, SEC, Big East. You can make an argument about the SEC, or you can't. South Carolina was picked 14th in the preseason, Tennessee number 1. And right now, South Carolina, they just got their 20th win last night against Ole Miss. That's an Ole Miss team that I think is 18-5 with Chris Beard, and they were not picked really high, but Chris Beard is also one of those coaches that wins everywhere he goes. How big a deal? I mean, you can compare Georgia and Auburn, very similar in a lot of things. The fan bases, they're wired, their DNA is very similar. Auburn people now, you can't get a basketball ticket. It's ridiculous. It's insane. And my son, when he graduated, he would go, Dad, I want to go to the game, but I have finance and accounting class. I cannot sleep. I can't stay up all night. Georgia, what if Georgia, and they've done it before, they went to the Final Four in 1983 in Albuquerque, but what if they start winning big? I mean, Kirby Smart, one thing about him and his wife, I think he's at all these games. He seems like super dog. Is that what it's like with him? I mean, he is so into Georgia. I think he's having more fun than any coach in America because he's winning too. It helps.
Yeah, that definitely makes it easier. But yeah, he's usually courtside. Him and Mary Beth usually are right there courtside watching Georgia. And I mean, again, Rob, I think it helps me having been at Auburn. It's just very simple. People love winners. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think Auburn gymnastics attendance was before SUNY Lee, Olympian got there? I'm sure the before and after, I mean, it's no comparison. People will, it's the Field of Dreams thing. If you build it, they will come. And it helps that most of a basketball season is after the football season. So what else does everybody have to do? They want to be entertained while, we're waiting for spring ball or we're waiting for, the season to get underway. So, yeah, I mean, as much as big as football is, I think people do care a lot about basketball in this state, and they want to be relevant. And that's sort of the thing. When Mike White was hired, I think there was some criticism. And to me, the biggest thing was he raises Georgia's floor, when they made that hire. And they've made significant strides. They won 10 more games in his first year than they did in Tom Crean's last year. They're 3 wins away this season from topping that number from last year. They're making strides in the right direction. They got a big 5-star that's coming in this next cycle. But they've just got to break through. They've had some real opportunities go by the wayside. Should have probably beaten number 4 Tennessee in Athens, had Alabama on the ropes. Came back from down 21 in Gainesville to force overtime against Florida and just couldn't finish it. You're right there. And I think that if you're a Georgia basketball fan, you've got reason to be excited. But at the end of the day, moral victories only go so far. And again, this game tonight in Starkville feels very, very big for Mike White, for this team, for trying to stay relevant and at the very least trying to make the NIT.
It's games like this. You lose all these close games. You go on the road. It's always darkest before dawn. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia doesn't just have an incredibly big night at the hump tonight. Mississippi State is not a great team, but they're really tough at home. But Georgia, they keep fighting and playing as hard as they are. Something good's going to happen to them. Going back to Georgia football, and you look at as we head into next year, Jim Harbaugh's gone at Michigan. I still think Georgia, had they been in the 4-team college football playoff, I still think they would have won the national championship. This is the 3rd or 4th year Carson Beck has been there. And I think the reason why their program is consistently elite is they're having more of their players stay. Now, I know I looked up at one time a few weeks ago, 16 Georgia guys in the portal in football, 5 5-stars, 8 4s, and 3 3-stars. That would have been, if that were a recruiting class of incoming players, probably the number 1 class in the country. But they've got a core group, and there's a culture there at Georgia that has bought all in. And you look at Clemson, their program has gone backwards the last few years after playing for 4 national championships in 5 years. I mean, let that resonate. How many schools in the country, other than Clemson and Georgia and Alabama, can say they played for 3 or 4 national championships in a 5-year span? And yet Clemson fans are up in arms. The game's passed Dabo by. But Kirby Smart, it's not luck. What's his daily kind of routine like? Is he the most myopically focused coach you've ever seen at Georgia? Or Georgia people, are they saying that historically? And by the way, Claude Felton retiring, David Howell's buddy Davidson, Norm Carlson, Langston Rogers at Ole Miss, Bo Carter at Mississippi State. Are they going to do something special for Claude Felton? Because he is what he has done for Georgia. It's immeasurable in his 43 years. One of the kindest, best people, everyone I know that's ever dealt with him. Talk about your relationship with him. And did you write a farewell, goodbye, Claude? You just hate to see people like that go away because they represent so many great times.
We need to get Claude Felton and David Housel their own podcast, because I guarantee, maybe nobody but us, sports writers and people who've been around them would listen, but I would love to hear that. With Claude, made sure to wish him well when I had a chance to talk to him at the Athletic Association meeting last week. And I always like telling this story. When I was a student, would have been 2015, Georgia was getting ready for this big game against Alabama. That was, the game of the year for Georgia. And Mark Richt and these guys, they're finally ready to beat this Alabama team. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to get a credential, because I was just an intern for the site that I'm working for now, Dogs 24/7. So we had put in a credential request and, didn't know if I was going to get it. Really didn't think I was, because, national media were coming in. It was the game of the week. And I remember talking to Claude before interviews on Wednesday. I was like, hey, I just want to check in. I'm sure, I understand if I don't have a spot. And he just kind of smiled and he said, yeah, we'll get you in. So that was always just super cool. Game wound up not being much, but it was still a really cool moment, and kind of speaks to Claude. He's always been so great. But, looking at this Georgia team you were talking about, Rob, they're well positioned with the experience they have coming back. It's just a few key spots where they're going to have guys step up. Offensive line, they got to figure out what that rotation is going to be. Receiver, there's going to be a ton of competition because they have a ton of guys and a ton of options. They just need some guys to step up. And to me, one of the biggest competitions on offense is running back. They've got 7 scholarship running backs, and there's only one ball to split between all those guys, but they're going to have someone kind of separate themselves. And, Trevor Etienne is going to be the lead back, assumedly, coming over from Florida, but they've got a lot of options, including 3 freshmen. Then the other side of the ball, the competition I'm watching is cornerback, because they lost Kamari Lassiter to the NFL. They got a lot of options. One of the most intriguing is Ellis Robinson, who's going to be a true freshman. He has been one of the most talked about guys this offseason. Really long corner, guy that just plays the position naturally. There's going to be some fun competition to watch once we get to spring practice. But Georgia's really in good position because of the talent they got coming back. It's going to be something worth watching.
Yeah. Brendan, you watched Etienne at Florida. Now he's at Georgia. How good a back is he compared to what Georgia typically puts out? Because, you look at Georgia and Auburn, again, very similar running back use. 7 scholarship running backs on a roster. Just a couple of years ago, they had 13 at Georgia, Brendan.
I think Etienne's great. I think he's very good. He's fast. He hits the holes really hard. He's got good vision on the field, and he just knows where he is all the time. He makes plays happen. And even when Florida was struggling with the offensive line position, which has been, sort of the knock on the Napier's offense, is just didn't have much. He did a lot with a little. And obviously when AR was there, and you had a little bit more of that play action threat, triple action potential. He picked up more yards, but he makes yardage when there's not yardage. He's great in the red zone. I just think he's, Florida did not want him to go, and I know they gave a lot of offers for him to stay. and he went anyway. So that tells you much. It was definitely a darker day for Billy Napier to lose not only to your best back, one of your best players to Georgia, but to lose him as a whole, I think was definitely painful.
Yeah. Jordan, I like the way he said it. Sometimes when schools lose a player or they don't get a recruit, some of the fans will come out and say, well, we didn't want him anyway. He's got a glass eyeball and one leg is 6 inches shorter than the other and all. But I like Brendan's honesty because Florida didn't want him to go. But damn, Georgia, how good can this team be? We just got a couple of minutes. How good can they be? And they didn't win. I was there at the SEC championship. We went down to Atlanta. God almighty, what an atmosphere. It's unbelievable. But I think they're comfortable being in the spotlight. I think they love it. I think they thrive on it. I think they were born for this. They just look like they're having fun. They don't look miserable.
I'll say what Rob Anderson said about him having a block. I promise you that he's going to have to get better at it because that was one of the criticisms I heard when he was at Florida. And they're not going to put up with him if he can't pass protect. And that's really just any running back. They expect
I think it's tough, though, when you got guys coming in, that are twice your size and no one's blocking them.
Right.
And then you got to pick up, I think if it's more of a scheme deal, I think he can block. I think he's all around a really good athlete in general. I just think it's tough to be in that situation. I mean, look at what Graham Mertz did, just taking shot after shot after shot. I mean, that guy should get a Purple Heart or something for playing last year in the SEC because he just took it all the time. So I think ETN's going to be fine in a good system with, with a great offensive line and a team like Georgia. I don't not see him excelling, and I don't look forward to playing Georgia even more because he's, he'll bring it. I think he's going to be a star this year.
That's the problem with the portal is not only do you lose a guy, but sometimes you got to line up, try to stop that guy once the next season gets there. But to answer your question, Rob, I think this team has a really high ceiling, and I'm sure Alabama fans aren't going to be happy if they're listening to this, but I mean, Nick Saban retired, and I think opened up a real opportunity for Georgia this year. I mean, the two games when you look at Georgia's 2024 schedule, at least in the regular season, that stand out at Alabama and at Texas. And that Texas game, I still think is going to be really, really hard. Before the season, or really, I should say before Nick Saban retired, I said Georgia's going to split those two games. They may win one of them. They're not winning both of them. Now, I think there's a real opportunity because there's been a lot of change. I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach, but his very first SEC game is going to be against Georgia. There is no better welcome to the SEC moment for him unless that game was on the road. He does get the benefit of playing that in Bryant-Denny. But, I mean, this team will – if they don't make the 12-team playoff, that will be considered a real disappointment. And I think that they are well-positioned to do it. Now, how far they can go just sort of depends on how healthy they are at that point in the season and who they play. But they are super, super talented. They've done a good job in the high school recruiting and in the portal. They're well set to make another championship run. And I do think that people will be really disappointed if they fall short of that.
And one last thing. What's the name of the Georgia NIL collective?
The Classic City Collective. That's the one that they kind of stick with and kind of run things through.
That's a bad.
And you got to play at Ole Miss too. So it's going to be Georgia's got a tough schedule next year, and I know Ole Miss people have got that one dialed in. So I love it. Jordan Davis Hill, Dogs 24/7. I got to get that proper because I always say 24/7 Sports Georgia. It's Dogs 24/7. Let people know about the podcast that you do, how they can follow you and keep up with your great work. And as always, we really appreciate it and thank you for sharing your time with us on Sidelines.
Appreciate that, Rob. I did want to throw in before I do all that. Georgia's one of only 4 teams next year that are playing multiple teams that made the playoff this past season, and they're the only team that's playing both of those teams on the road. So, last summer we talked a lot about Georgia's schedule. It's not that good. We're not going to be having those conversations this year. It's just not going to happen. But appreciate you guys having me on. on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill, on Twitter at Dogs247, Dogs247.com. We're running a 60% off VIP sale right now, and really the attention's already kind of turned to spring practice because National Signing Day doesn't mean a lot for Georgia. They did pick up that walk-on that I mentioned a few minutes ago. He actually committed. If you saw me looking down at my phone, I was posting a story about that.
I know.
Kid
I was
Say his
looking at
name
it,
again?
I was getting the same alerts. I'm like, what's going on, Georgia?
What's his name
But,
again?
he's a receiver from
Jeremy Bell.
Clinch County, and he had
Yeah.
something like 1,400 all-purpose yards. So very good walk-on. They do a very good job of getting guys in state to come and walk on at Georgia, and he looks like another one that's got a chance to be really, really good.
All right, man. We'll do it again next week, Jordan. Thanks so much. Go Dogs. Hey, Brendan, that was cool. I see you looking down a lot, and it's because you. And I cannot tell you how much we appreciate everything you're doing. It's folks having an executive producer like this guy. Again, it's like having a sniper in the deer stand with you, Chris Kyle. That's the difference it makes. But talking about Etienne,
we got a lot going on. So that's
look, you're big, and I love the Buddy Martin show last night. You and your dad doing the fist bump. I could see you just your knuckles last night. But that conversation with Freddie Wiebe, and we got to get him on next week. I've got Friday's already booked up. We're going to have a really cool discussion Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Ben Troop on, the pastor, and we're also going to have Dana Marquez, who's been director of equipment operations at Auburn since 2005. He stepped out of that role back in the summer, and he's got helmetfitting.com. He's got Carbon Tech shoulder pads, Falcon Pursuit. They're making cutting edge equipment for college, NFL, high school. Tell you how big a deal it is. Dana Marquez and his group went to Sacramento back in the fall and spoke to the California state legislature. They were trying to ban youth league football. That would have affected 3.9 million kids in California. And they convinced them not to make that bad decision. They're making great equipment. Dana Marquez him and his wife Liz, what they're doing is big. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to try to get Jerry Kirby. You talk about Savant Saturday. This guy watches every NFL game. The ones he doesn't watch, he watches in the offseason. And my goodness, we're going to have a cool Super Bowl discussion. But Freddie Wiebe, just from my view, Brendan, you know him. I don't know him. But I see guys like him in the investment world. You see him in private equity, venture capital. Dave Tompkins, who's on our show on Saturdays and on Thursdays a lot with us, is a venture capital guy. West Point grad, Bama fan, MBA from Stanford, worked out in Silicon Valley 17 years. If I'm a Florida Gator and I look at Freddie Wiebe's resume, entrepreneur, fundraiser. No, he's not the head of NIL. You said he's director of what's his actual
director
title?
of revenue. Yeah. And he also is, spearheaded Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, which is a fantastic restaurant for Steve Spurrier, which is a special place. It's like a museum of his career, and it's a fantastic food. And he built that. It's about a $10 million facility. So he partnered with the
restaurant.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's awesome.
So you're not talking about something in a strip mall. You're talking about freestanding architectural.
Oh yeah, freestanding. It's part of an area that's a new area in Gainesville, but it's a freestanding building. They've got the restaurant on top of it's called Visors, and it's an outside bar. It's a rooftop bar and area upstairs, and the downstairs is it's something that I promise you, when you see a lot of these coaches, go and start whatever, like a steakhouse and all that kind of stuff. This is nothing like you've ever seen. It truly is. It's just extraordinary as far as I'm trying to get show it to you really fast, but it's extraordinary as far as like a museum and how Freddie went and studied. I believe, I don't know the amount of time, but he went to study, how some of the best restaurants ever ran, and he meticulously, from the service to the food. So it's not just this, one-off, like, hey, come here because you're in town with, whatever it is. Here it is. I'm trying to show it to you here, but it's just something. There's Spurrier. You can see that. I mean, that's their front bar, and then they've got the great steak dinners, and then you see Steve over here. That's just when you walk in, and that's all. Those are all those SEC rings. And it's just, if you're a football fan, and that's the upstairs area called Visors. I mean, it's just extraordinary. You really haven't been anywhere like it, and it's fun. You can't get a table half the time in there because it's just the food's fantastic, and Freddie is the one that spearheaded all that, fundraised it, got it together, put the group together to fund it, and then built it during COVID. So, how about that? You got a guy opening a restaurant during COVID when it was not all that popular to do so. So not only did he keep it alive, but he's just super positive. And this became a place for recruits to come and hang out. So he's made that, possible for all the head coaches to come over and have a place to bring recruits. They've got a podcast facility inside the restaurant, so they have glass so you can come and do it. So it's where we're going to be doing our with my dad, Buddy, and the Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier conversation in April about winning. We're gonna do it there at Spurrier. So
Audrey
and he's the guy that put that together.
Yeah,
and he's got his other business and with the marketing company. When you're around the guy, you wouldn't even know that he does so much. It's just, it's finally they've settled in on the right guy to go and spearhead this, because if Freddie Wiebe does it, he does it right. And then maybe tomorrow we'll have an excerpt from the interview last night, and I'll try to get him on for Monday.
Do it. I mean, because you got to get the right person when making the ask. But if you're going to if you're asking for people to contribute to a cause, you better first be a giver.
Well,
that's
and he's
great
ethical.
Advice. Yeah, that's great advice that Dick Trappier, the late Dick Trappier, I love that man, would say in Memphis. He would find a need and then go make the connections with people that he knew that could do it. But love the Buddy Martin Show. Watch it every night of the week, 9 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. And let me say one other thing.
Actually, so if you can be watching us on Facebook right now, you can go over and search for Sideline Sports Network. You're going to see the Buddy Martin Show come up as there. You're going to also find Sideline Sports separated onto another channel, and as we sort of part of my job here is not just to have fun with Rob on the air here, is that I've been tasked to sort of, we're overhauling all of our social media, we're overhauling websites, and really to bring you all sort of a all-in-one umbrella for you to find all SEC sports news and information, and get a lot of these great guests and stuff, so share their information and their websites and all that stuff. So when I get off the air, I jump right into a whole different mode of creation and to take Rob's vision, which he started here, and bring it to life, and merging it with Buddy Martin and what we're doing there, because we're one big family. And and as we approach football season, March Madness and things like that, SEC will always be, especially in the South, will always be some sort of family, no matter what happens in the future. And I think that's what's important. So as we say, Rob, the South is going to save college football, and Freddie Wiebe is one of those guys that's going to help us do it. So, well,
I'm telling you, and I don't ever say anything just to placate people or make them feel good. If I don't like something, I'll tell you, and I know you will too, because we ardently and fervently revere free speech. There's no censorship on this show. We don't tell our guests what to say, how to say it, what to think. We are right. I'm going to tell you, I'm an American capitalist all the way. Sometimes I'm different about how people, when they're 18, should get money, maybe just defer it, put it in a trust because it'll last longer. But the greatest thing we have is this SEC footprint, and that's what we're going to focus on. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, folks. We live in the greatest country in the world. It's we the people, not anything else. Remember that. We the people. Appreciate our sponsors, our listeners, and our viewers. Got a great show in line for you tomorrow. We'll see you then. Take care. We are out of here.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.